welcome back to Feedback Loop. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Joey.
And this week, the music that we listened to was an album called Satana Tarantula, which I pronounced as Satana Tarantula last week because, I mean, it's spelled the same way.
That's how it looks. So
I should have realized because it was Satana that it was Latin and then it would be Tarantula instead of Tarantula, but I didn't. The band is called The Brains. This is a band that I picked this album. I've been wanting to do their 2015 album, Out in the Dark. I think it's 2015, for a while, but I was kind of on the fence about it for the longest time. And then I saw that they had a new album out last year, and I was like, yeah, we'll do that one. It's spooky time. It's spooky season. This episode's hopefully going to go up on Halloween, which is a Sunday instead of a Monday. But,
oh my God.
So hopefully you're hearing this on Halloween if you're listening at all. If you're not listening, then I have no words for you because they would fall upon no ears.
Yeah, how would you even hear it too? Also,
but yeah, so their previous album, Out in the Dark, was very like Halloween themed, almost to like a cheesy extent. And so I was like, okay, it's Halloween. They have a new album out. Let's give it a listen this week. I actually heard of the band. I found the band because of I went to a live show in the city across the river.
Oh, okay.
as it were, a couple of years back. It was an Avatar concert that my coworkers got me a ticket to, so I went. I don't think I bought the ticket. I'm pretty sure I didn't buy the ticket.
Why would you buy a ticket to an Avatar concert?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I was like, I don't really care for Avatar, but if you buy me a ticket, I'll go with you, because I mean, I like going to live shows, and I felt like it would be a good way to give them a fair chance to like change my mind on Avatar or whatever. So I went and I saw them. And the Brains opened up for them. Also, before the Brains played, they had like a circus show by Hellzapoppin'. I think it's like a traveling circus act kind of a thing that does like, I don't want to say like body terror things, but it's a more like edgy circus act kind of thing. It's not like clowns and peanuts and elephants and stuff like that.
Was somebody hanging from the ceiling by hooks stuck through their back?
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like Chris Angel.
Yeah, like Chris Angel stuff. The famous circus performer, Chris Angel. But yeah, so I saw the Brains there, and I don't hate Avatar. I'm just gonna get that out. I don't hate them. It's just not something that I'm like super interested in. Their music doesn't appeal to me that much. But the Brains opened up, and I was instantly sold on them. And I actually bought their CD that night, which was Out in the Dark at the time. That was what they were selling, and I bought a T-shirt as well that night, because I like supporting lesser known acts, and I have a habit of buying merch at every concert I go to, usually a tour t-shirt, just for like memorabilia to add to my collection. So I bought a Brains t-shirt and a Brains album from that night. So I've seen them live. Very cool to see them live back in the day. Have not experienced this album prior to this week. And yeah, I think that's enough context. That's all of the context I have. That's my anecdote to lead us into. I cannot segue.
Well, I mean, hopefully that you're not too vindictive about being forced to go to an Avatar concert.
I'm not. It was an okay night. I don't really remember a lot of it, but I remember the Brains, and it was fun. I mean, I remember that there was a circus, and I remember that track number 1 of this album is called Vindicta.
Well, how would you remember that if you hadn't?
Didn't. You segued. I didn't. I mean, I remembered it now because I'm looking at it, but at the time, I didn't remember. It doesn't matter. Track number 1 on this album, Vindicta. Joey, you take it away.
Okay. Well, so this one, I was kind of confused.
Why?
So
you had expectations going into this?
I had expectations after seeing a picture of the front man.
Okay.
and you saying like that it was kind of a Halloween-y album. You didn't like give any sort of genre description or anything.
Right.
But I could tell by looking at them, my immediate vibe was like a Misfits type band.
Yeah.
Which they're not really. But this song just starts off with like feedbacky guitar synth, what it sounds like over light piano. And it feels like it's like starting to get you pumped up for the album. And then this piano starts to get real tinny as the song starts to fade out. But it was like, whenever I heard it, it was instantly like, I was expecting like at least something rocky. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. It threw me for a little loop. I got
Yeah,
you.
because it's a kind of like ambient, kind of like intro noise track kind of a thing.
Yeah, and
It's,
it was nice. It was at least having my expectations changed. I
right.
think set me in a better. It did a good job of getting me ready for the album, even though it sounds nothing like the rest of the album. I guess.
Hell yeah, that's good to hear. Hopefully that means you had a generally positive experience with Satana Tarantula as a whole. There are no lyrics to discuss on Vindicta because it's just like an ambient, like instrumental intro track leading into track number 2.
Satana Tarantula. That
Satanic
one.
Tarantula.
That one.
That one. The
Satan
title track.
Tarantula.
Satan Tarantula. What a name for an album and a track title. I'm gonna full disclosure. I guess I kind of already went over this. The previous album, which is what I was expecting, is full on like cheesy horror movie trope kind of songs. Like they have songs about like the Wolfman and Burn the Witch, and there's like a song about like a Kraken or something. Like it's all like cheesily themed. Each song is about a different like horror monster kind of a thing, and this album is not that.
Yeah.
It keeps some of the spooky, I guess, theming, but it's not a Halloween album, I don't think.
Yeah, like this song, I mean, it's called Satana Tarantula, which
Yeah,
is like imagery of spiders and Satan and all that. But yeah, it's not really like a Halloween song, but
yeah.
it is a cool song. So I'll give it that. Like, because this is where it kind of picks up more in the direction that I was expecting it to go,
Mhm.
where it's like, I saw a lot of descriptions of them as Psychobilly,
Yeah,
which is not like, it's not something I'm really like super familiar with. And the only, I guess, real knowledge I have is like rockabilly type stuff, like
right.
from the 70s or like the Stray Cats, that kind of, and some
Hell
stuff
yeah.
that even like, I don't know, whenever the guy that isn't Glenn Danzig started singing for the Misfits, like they kind of went into that man, I'm gonna feel bad that I don't remember his name, but honestly, I don't really care because I don't care too much about the Misfits whenever
Nobody
it's not
cares about the
Danzig.
Misfits without Danzig.
Yeah, but it was a cool like older feel. But this didn't, like, whenever I think of rockabilly, I think of like people trying to make rock that sounds like it's harder rock from the 50s, but it wasn't made in the
Yeah.
50s and it's updated, which I didn't immediately get from this. But that being said, I don't care too much for rockabilly, so I'm glad that it
Oof.
didn't sound too much like that.
Okay.
So
Okay. That's a good saving grace, I
yeah,
suppose.
I was expecting more rockabilly whenever I read that, but I like this more than I like rockabilly, so that's cool. And the most rockabilly thing about them seems to be the singer's voice, or at least style of singing, which I
Yeah.
do like. That is the element that I like. I really like this guy's voice.
Yeah. There's that, and then there's also, which I guess I don't know if it's necessarily a rockabilly kind of staple, but they have an upright bassist. Their bassist is using this like huge double bass and just going to town on it. And throughout the whole album, you can hear this clicking noise
Oh
that's
my
kind of
god.
iterating through all of it. And I was hearing it live when I saw them, and I thought it was the drummer doing like some like rim work or something, but it's not. It's the clicking of the strings of this man just laying into this double bass the whole time.
Okay, so I want to preface the rest of my everything I say about this, because in almost every track I noted the drums, which I do really like the drums,
Yeah,
but there was always like, I don't know, it's just like, oh, he does like this cool like clicky things. It talked, like Jeremy was talking about Halloween. It kind of sounds like bones dancing or
yeah,
something. And
yeah.
but if that's the bass, I'm gonna have to like, I might
It
slip
is
up
the
and be like
bass.
the drums at some point, just giving a heads up.
Yeah, so they have this crazy upright bassist and just getting it the whole time, even when it doesn't sound like they're getting it. There's that clicking that they're doing. It's very like percussive playing, and I think that's really what sold them for me. I mean, it was cool hearing like kind of like horror rock kind of music with like rockabilly aesthetics and just the general like theming of it, I guess, was cool, especially going into an Avatar concert. But the upright bass really sold it for me,
Hell yeah.
and that's why I think this band sticks out to me as something that I like to share.
Well, I'm glad you did, because guitar solos on not only this song but just about every song. But
Mhm.
I like the guitar solo on here, which You know, now that I think about it, I described it as like a surfy feel in
Yeah,
my
me too.
notes, but I could see maybe how that's part of the rockabilly
Yeah,
scene. Maybe I like rockabilly more than I think I do, but I don't know. I don't know. It's cool.
we'll have to find some rockabilly music
Like
to dive into.
the energy of the chorus is super infectious as well, and it makes
Yeah,
me want to like bounce around, but like drive fast, but like not the kind of driving fast where you're like a shithead. The kind of driving
yeah.
fast where you'd be like taking you and your friends are out and you just left the malt shop and you're going around the bins and you just left the high school football game and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're just jamming out.
It's got that kind of like high school dance kind of feel to it,
Yeah.
but like back in the
Which
50s.
yeah, that's which I don't know. I don't know why that is such a sound, but it really is
It
here, and
is.
it's totally fine because that's like I'm gonna be. This is probably gonna be my last time talking about the Misfits, but that's the vibe I get from the Misfits. Even though they're more
Mhm.
the punk side of it, somehow they capture that feeling, and that's what I like so much about them. And the
Yeah.
fact that they capture that here, I feel like really does them justice in my mind.
Yeah, it's kind of this weird like juxtaposition of it being like almost a time capsule of like hearing something from the past, but in a modern setting and with
Yeah,
modern like technique and implementation of it, which is cool. It's cool stuff.
super cool.
Lyrically, this track there's kind of one or two overarching themes that I picked up on throughout the whole album. Side note: there were no lyrics for us to find online, so it was mostly just us listening to them and pulling what we could from what we heard, which is pretty easy because I mean the singer he has a pretty clear, and I really like his voice as well. Just as a side note, he's kind of that clear, prominent kind of singing, so it's not necessarily difficult to make out what he's saying most of the time. So this one is just him like talking about dancing around with a pretty girl, and then also it seemed like there was some implication of seducing her into some steamy romance in the backseat of a car or something. Just just typical 50s
Yeah,
teenager partying and getting into trouble,
getting into women.
getting into women.
The Tarantula part, I like. It's he's talking about her where it's like she's a spider and has him in her web or something, but he's
Yeah,
also like it's there's kind of like a double sided thing because he does talk about her having him in her web. I don't know if he uses those words specifically
right.
because I can't look at the lyrics because they're not online.
Yeah,
A super fan of the Brains, please go out to Genius and transcribe all of
yeah,
their albums. But get like it was because he's talking about how she has him in his web or in her web, but
yeah,
he's also seems to be talking about seducing her as well. So it's like there's a two sided thing because
yeah.
whenever I think about she's a spider who's like catching him, I'm like, oh,
She's
she's
in control.
predatory, she's
Yeah.
in control. But it seems like it goes both ways.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the biggest themes on this album that I picked up on is just general like seduction, whether that's like by power or in like a sexual manner or whatever. It seems to be kind of permeated throughout a lot of the tracks. Just this idea of someone luring someone else into a position or a situation,
Yeah, lighting the fire of passion deep
lighting
within
the
them
fire
to.
of passion. Just like I think they talk about in the next track. So if we want to move on to track number 3, fire.
Oh, fire!
That was a fire segue.
Oh my god,
Am I hip now by calling
you're
something fire
dude.
as an
All you need,
adjective?
if you could speak an emoji, that's the only way you could be more hip.
I can try. I'm not going to, but I could.
Speaking of fire, though, the tone that the guitar has at the start of the song, I'd say that's fire. It's got like a reverby, delayed sound that gets really plucky and it makes the riff sound just super cool. And I
Yes.
like it.
So overall, this track sounds a whole lot more like Out in the Dark does. My only real complaint with Out in the Dark is that it kind of sounds one note, and all of the tracks kind of sound samey, and it's this kind of sound that they captured in Fire. So I think this album is better from a musical standpoint, as having a more diverse kind of sound across the album. It's still like obviously within the same genre,
Hmm.
but I think my biggest criticism of their previous album was that it all kind of sounded the same. And I think this track is the standout track on this album that captures that same sound. So I typically tend to like that because it's like kind of showing that this is where they came from in a way musically, and it still has that. And I do like that sound. Like, it's not necessarily an insult to say that it's one note, and it's not calling it a bad note that they're harping on in the previous album. But yeah, this track stands out as the most like their previous stuff. Also, this one features a well-known rockabilly guitarist, Danny B. Harvey.
Who's he like, where's he from?
I don't know. I don't know rockabilly.
Oh, okay. Because I don't
just
know
know that
rockabilly either.
yeah.
But I was like, that name sounds familiar. But I, of course,
You're thinking of Johnny B. Good.
Yeah, that's what it is. Of course, Johnny B. Good. This one though, like, it's also got a solo, like I mentioned in the previous song, and I gotta say, I really appreciate this guy's solo crafting, just because it seems like whenever he plays it, it really fits. Because that was kind of always my deal with rockabilly, is like the guitar never did it for me like other genres of rock did.
Yeah.
Where it seemed like they were trying to update too much but keep the old style of sound everywhere else, but then they would have, like, I don't know, a guitar solo that kind of seemed like bordering on out of place. And this one, he doesn't go for anything face melting, he doesn't go for anything like super technical. It's just a guitar solo that sounds
groovy,
cool.
and it fits the swing of the rest of the song.
Yeah, and I like it. It's cool.
I agree. There are a lot of really cool solos on this album, and this one obviously has a guest guitarist on it, so I'm not sure. I think they both have a solo individually in this track. I don't really remember, but there's at least one other track on this album that has a guest guitarist that isn't actually called out on, at least not on the track listing on YouTube Music. They called out Danny B. Harvey, and they called out another feature later, but they did not call out the one that's in another track that I'll mention when we get there.
They must have not had a big enough name. That was the problem.
I don't think that's the case, and I'll explain that in a second. But Fire, lyrically, it's another kind of, most of their songs are pretty simple and straightforward. What you hear is what you get, kind of a thing. And this one seemed to be a kind of getting caught up in the flames of passion and desire. So maybe as an extension to the previous track, this is kind of going more into that steamy romance, and there's something maybe blossoming there.
Yeah, I definitely like, because he does talk about like the fire desire, like that rhyme that you hear. But it, to me, it was like it could have gone a number of ways, but given that the last song was about a girl specifically, I feel like this one kind of has to be.
Yeah, so. And I think this also kind of bridges the to the second theme of the album. So overall, like I think the two big themes on this is the seduction that we've already talked about, and then there's also this layer of running from the consequences or dealing with the consequences, which has this kind of skin over it, this disguise of hell and hellfire and stuff like that. So this is like, whereas Satana Tarantula was about the romance side, this is Fire being both in the passion and the sex of the previous track, but also setting up the hellishness that is to come.
And the hellishness of track number 4, which is hell.
I didn't intend to segue when I said hell, but I was like, oh, that's actually a really good segue.
I'm gonna write that down. Write that down.
Write that down quick. This is the song that has another guest guitarist.
Oh,
and it features Tim Orstrom, who is the lead guitarist for Avatar, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think they went on tour together, and then they became friends, and so this was more of just like a surprise guest feature kind of a thing. So there's a bonus guitar solo in this one that has Tim doing some kind of crazy fun shredding stuff. I think it's pretty clear which section is his. I think the Brains guitarist does most of the guitar work in this, but there is like one specific solo section that sounds different, and I believe that is Tim's work.
That would definitely make sense, consider, like, whenever I wrote my notes for the guitar solo, I mentioned like a guitar solo in the guitar solo, or it was like a separate part of it, like a little guitar solo that builds to another guitar solo.
Yeah. And I think Tim got the latter. Also, musically, I really like this. I don't think I noticed it the first few times, but the drums in the verses on this track have this cool kind of like samba rhythm to it
Yeah.
that really stands out, and it feels great, I think, in the context of the song.
Yeah, I put it as a flamenco feel, but
Yeah.
I don't know what either of those words mean. I just know
Yeah,
the
something foreign.
yeah, there we go. Something that's not from America.
Yeah.
Which, I feel like there's probably some sort of this band is Canadian,
Yeah.
and I guess the singer or some like maybe just everybody in the band has some sort of like Spanish, like I don't know.
Yeah.
There's like
The singer's
Satana
name is like
Tarantula.
Rene de la Muerta or something.
Yeah,
That's his nickname.
so it's probably like makes plenty sense. And call me out if I said that it sounds like the wrong style of music, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I think in with that in mind, I think flamenco is probably more likely because that's more of like a Spanish kind of dancey thing, right? Whereas
yeah.
samba is more of like a Brazilian, South American thing.
I would not know, but I'm gonna take the win there and
I'll
just
give it to you.
just run with it. And speaking of the singer, that's so I was right when I was gonna say speaking, and then I was gonna correct myself. But
No, not speaking. Speaking.
yeah, speaking. But speaking of speaking, whenever he's talking on this or singing on this song, it has this cool like backwards effect behind it that
Hmm.
sounds like you're hearing a ghost talk from beyond the grave in a movie. And I really like the I guess the play with this song talking about hell
Hmm.
and it having that effect, and it's just like a super cool eerie sound.
Yeah. So it's again it's kind of still kind of in spooky territory, but it's not like as overtly cheesy and on the nose, I think, as the other album that I was kind of expecting and hoping this would be, which is not a bad thing, just different. Lyrically, this one's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek song where the singer is asking for hell not to take him yet because he's not done sinning and he hasn't like quote unquote earned his crown, kind of a thing. So this is where it starts to kind of blend, at least the way that I tied it all together is that hell is just representing consequences of his actions, where his actions are generally sinful and reckless and being wild and flamboyant with one night stands and such.
Well, you figured that out one song before me because I didn't quite get the imagery of like hellhounds chasing him to get him to come back to hell, but
Right.
it eventually came to me.
Did it come to you in track number 5, Hellhounds,
It did. That's actually exactly what it came to me.
featuring Patricia Day, who is also, I believe, another prominent figure in rockabilly music that I have not heard of before.
Well, so her name sounded super familiar, and I was like, "Where have I heard this from?" And
Felicia
I
Day.
was thinking of Felicia Day. So
Different
that's
person, I believe. Could be wrong.
oh
But
my that what a fucking twist that would be if Felicia Day by night was like some
some rockabilly
rockabilly
singer.
icon.
That would be awesome. But yeah, Hellhounds. I really like this track musically. I think this might be my favorite one. Just probably just because it has this duet thing going on with Patricia Day that they've not done before previously. They've, at least from what I've heard, they haven't had another vocalist, nonetheless a female, nonetheless a kind of a duet setup for it, which is, I'm always into duets, I think, is the issue here. And I really like this track because of it.
Well, I really like this track. I wouldn't say it's my favorite because that comes later, but
So
I
you
do
do have a
like.
favorite.
Well, yeah, of course
Okay.
I have a
Okay.
favorite. I can't just listen to 12 songs and not pick a favorite, Jeremy.
Okay. Okay. I'm not gonna guess. I have no idea which one it would be, but
Yeah, I wouldn't try to guess because my tastes are pretty out there, so it'll be something that subverts your expectations.
yeah,
But
maybe.
I do like the guitar part on this song. As keep saying, I just like guitar, but
Yeah.
I like the guitar part and how bouncy it is, and like how the drums accent it so well. Like they're just pounding, and I don't know what he does with the drums, but I feel like it makes everything else sound better. But it
Yeah.
could be the double bass, maybe adding some rumble or something. But
Yeah, I think all it's just there is definitely something happening between all of them that gives it a very like cohesive and like well rounded and supported kind of feel to music, which is it's great.
almost like a band.
Almost like a band. The Brains, almost like a band. Put that on your t-shirts and I'll buy one.
God, I hope they do, because I would love to have that on a t-shirt. If they don't do that, I'm doing that for our band whenever
Hell
we
yeah.
have a band.
Almost like a band. Awesome.
Lyrically, this one, it's called Hellhounds, and I mean, the song titles so far have been pretty explanatory. So the last song was talking about him not wanting to get dragged back to hell, the consequences of his actions, and this one is talking about trying to outrun the Hellhounds and kind of the acceptance that you can't really escape them, but it's not going to stop him from trying.
Right. Yep. That is it. It's
That's
about
the song.
running away from the Hellhounds. that is the consequences. Silence.
What kind of band would play you across the river Styx into
I don't
hell?
know. Probably some sort of like mariachi band, like some like the Band of the Dead, like a El Mariachi de la Muerta.
Well, I think they'd be playing track number 6, El Mariachi de la Muerta.
Oh, that's a good catch. I didn't even realize you were segueing. Crazy.
Oh my god. ... dot.
I had no idea where to go with that. Anyways, this one's mostly what you'd expect. By this point, I kind of stopped talking about the music, but there's a really cool big like marching trumpeting section that kind of breaks up the song before the last chorus. It's really cool and stands out.
Yeah. And before it, I'm going to call it the drums again, because it's got this cool little, like, during the verse, it's got this cool little, like, drum part that sounds like he's doing, like, a drum roll, but just, like, occasionally.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about drums, but it sounds cool. So super, super awesome, man. And
yeah,
it's also...
their drummer is very good at what he does. And there are several points throughout the album that it's very, like, obvious to hear his technical proficiency and stuff, which is fun, but I didn't actually shout him out at all in my notes.
I don't know his name. I should have done my research, considering we have a podcast where we talk about music.
Nah,
but
we don't talk about fact. We talk about subjectivity.
Our subjectivity doesn't care about your feelings. Get fucking owned.
Speaking of feelings,
yeah,
this one seems to be kind of almost a feeling of guilt, I think, where they're maybe feeling a bit guilty from the sins that they've been committing that have been causing them to run from the Hellhounds, so to speak. And there's I don't know, there's kind of this feeling of dread and guilt seeping in.
See, I didn't get that. What I got was that it was about, like, the girl that he was chasing after turned on him and can command the dead, and she can make music that will wake the dead and they will follow her. And you know, so okay, maybe this could be he, like, fucked up one too many times and now she's the consequences of his actions or something.
Maybe.
But that's just me spitballing here.
No, I mean, I think that fits in because, again, you kind of also have this kind of seduction or this mystical power kind of aspect of it, of someone. In this case, you're saying that this woman is able to rouse the skeletons and command them from the grave or whatever, which fits into the overall theming, I think, that they're using throughout this album. And it kind of also relates to something that comes up later in the album, I think. So maybe this is sort of like a turning point where he's kind of got himself in trouble for real this time with some girl that he's been trying to get with or whatever.
Well, maybe in the next few songs I'll convince you to come by my side and agree with me.
I mean, I'm already there. I'm right by your side, and I'm going to stay there as we talk about track number 7. Come by my side. Do we need to get an air horn button?
We
just
do.
Play it every time we have a successful segue.
That'll be a live thing. Like, whenever we made it huge and we're, like, selling out arenas so people can just
listen to us talk about music. That would be the fucking day. If our podcast sells out arenas for a live show.
And we get an air horn button.
Hell yeah.
That's how we know we'll make it.
That's how we know we made it.
This one is immediately boppy, and it almost reminds me of a Volbeat song. And this is where I kind of started to reevaluate my life, because I was like, I like Volbeat, And Volbeat, now that I think about it, could be considered like a form of rockabilly.
Yeah, I can see that.
So like there's some clapping to the beat in the background that really hit that feeling home, and I was like, maybe I'm turning a new leaf and I'm becoming a Billy.
I'm becoming a Billy.
What oh my god.
Rockabilly.
What was that? That song by Atreyu, Become the Billy?
Oh my, get the fuck out of here, Joey. I don't need this shit from you too. That's an inside joke I'm not going to explain on the air. But fuck you is all I gotta say.
We'll explain it at the live show. How about that?
Yeah, at the live show in our sold out arenas. But yeah, there's also a really like a fake ending to this one that gets followed up by this really like jazzy, swingy breakdown kind of a thing before the last chorus. It really stands out to me, and I really like it.
Yeah, I like that. And the only other thing that I pointed out was, of course, the guitar solo. But just because this one, it feels more rock and roll, I guess. And there's like a tremolo picked part at the end that reminds me of just like a classic hard rock line. And I'm all for it. So that's just super cool.
So is this your favorite song?
This is not my favorite song.
Okay. Well, this is looking good because that means your favorite song, like, you got to really like it.
I do like it.
Because you seem to like a lot of these songs, which is surprising.
Well, why is it surprising, huh?
I mean, just from what you said at the beginning, at the start of this episode, you're like, I don't like rockabilly, and I was like, well, this is a failure of a week, I guess. You're constantly talking about how great it is. So
I will tell you, there are parts of like this song and other songs that I think I like more than the one that I would consider my favorite song. But there's just a part of this song, of my favorite song, that I like so much that I have to call it my favorite song. So
interesting. Lyrically, this one, I'm curious to see what you got, because this one, it just kind of came across as like possession and seduction in a non-sexual way, like someone was being lured to their death or to their doom, potentially by like a devil, kind of tying back to the whole hell theme, like someone was being beckoned back to hell, kind of a thing.
I kind of got like, that's pretty much what I got. And I kind of ran with it from the previous song where it was like the girl who can command the dead, and she's trying to like
sweet talk him.
Yeah, she's like trying to get him to be like, okay, well, you're supposed to be in hell. Like, you need to face the consequences of your action. So come on over to the other side. Come down here. We all float.
We all float down here. It's a classic quote from Satan himself.
Yeah, hell yeah. Satan, he's really big into floaties and lazy rivers.
Floaties and lazy rivers. I want that on a t-shirt. Satan's into floaties and lazy rivers.
This is our merch episode where we have all of our good ideas.
Surprise! It's going to be a big surprise reveal at the end when we actually are selling these shirts right now, and it was all a ruse the whole time. And
dude, what a fucking mind fuck.
That's not the case. We don't have merch. We don't have any way of getting income from the show at all, in any sense of the word, unless you would just mail me cash. Maybe if you know me in person, just hand me some cash. That would count, I suppose. But there's no official way. Venmo. Yeah, we need to set up a Venmo or what is it? Ko-fi? Is that pronounced coffee?
Coffee? I don't know.
Fuck if I know. I'm not hip.
All I know is whenever we do get merch, it's going to sell out quick. People are going to be fighting or dying to get that merch.
It's true. And they'll be singing Track Number 8, I think, when they're fighting or dying for it. Because Track Number 8's called Fight or Die.
Yeah, that wasn't clear.
This one's like an arena battle kind of feel with it. There's like a chanting of fight and some like pounding toms going through it. I mean, it's called Fight or Die. They're pretty on the nose with their song titles being representative of the song. So that's all there is to it for me.
Yeah. It reminded me of like, I don't know, the old like punk songs, like the Oi type songs, just that chanting where it just gives you this intensity throughout it, this energy. And it's super cool.
Yeah. So I think in the context, at least from my perspective, this was hell catching up. This was the consequences coming full circle, and now he's having to face them or die, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I got. Like where the death is succumbing to
battle.
Yeah, It did seem like it. Like, it got me pumped up listening to this song. This whole
Right.
album, I'm gonna just throw this out here. This whole album is it's fun. Is a way that I would describe it.
Yeah.
It's not like you're not gonna be listening to any of this music probably and be like head scratching or being like, I really like the subtle change that they did there, or how they wove this storyline through using the music. Or it's nothing you haven't. It's nothing you. I don't want to say it's nothing you haven't heard, because you haven't heard it, because unless you've listened to the album, you haven't heard this album. But it's not
nothing that's like a technical like marvel. Like there's nothing tremendously novel, I suppose, happening.
Yeah.
But fun is a great way to describe it, and fun is a great way to describe their previous album as well. I think that's a good way of thinking about it. Instead of expecting it to be like the best music you've ever heard in your life, you just kind of you put it on to enjoy yourself and kind of vibe out to a very specific feeling.
Hell yeah.
I think we could do it all night long, so come on. Let's do it all night.
Well, I mean, shit. Okay, I didn't know you were gonna ask this way on the show, but okay. Come on, I'll be blaring track number 9 all the way over to your house. Come on, let's do it all night. That's what track number 9's called.
And guess what? That's what it's about too. I mean, just jumping right in. Again, their song titles are very apropos. They say what they mean and they mean what they say.
Apropos, holy shit!
I probably misused that word.
That's an apropos vocabulary you got there.
This is just where you judge me for using a word.
I do it all the time. Hey, okay, you know, I'm gonna share what would be an embarrassing story for somebody who isn't me. And, I use words wrong all the time. I use words that aren't words. And it was probably a few months ago. I was describing something that was a liquid. And it's very much a liquid, and I described it as being liquidus. Liquidus. I said liquidus. And and it was in front of like Alyssa and my parents, and everybody was just like stopped what they were doing, and we're like, "What the fuck did you just say?"
Yeah, I would have ran with that. I wouldn't have been embarrassed.
I was just like,
go with it.
Well, because then I doubled down. I was like, "Yeah, that's a word." And they were like, "No, it fucking isn't." What are you talking about?
I don't know if I would have doubled down on it. I would have made it clear that I thought it was a funny word, and that's why I used it kind of with it. Oh man. But yeah, Come On, Let's Do It All Night is this one I think is the most standard rockabilly sounding track. It's very swingy and very upbeat, and it kind of has this like this older rock feel to it. That kind of like almost like Elvis kind of style of rock, but obviously with a more swingy and kind of rockabilly aesthetic.
So do you want to hear I don't know, the most crazy character arc of the year?
Is this your favorite song?
This is my favorite song.
Is it because of the wild piano solo that happens?
It is because of the fucking sick piano solo.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome.
So the guitar solo is just like, it's so rock and roll. Mm-hmm. Like it just hits with like this awesome, it's got like the speed. It's not too much, but it's just enough to be awesome. And just when you think, oh, that's a cool guitar solo, that's when the piano solo comes in. Yeah. And the piano solo is more rock and roll than the guitar solo.
It is definitely a rock and roll piano solo. It's got like Freebird piano vibes to it.
Hell yeah. And it just caught me off guard, and I was just like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I got nothing else to say about it. And lyrically, I also don't really have a lot to say about it, because it's just like, I mean, it's about fucking and partying all night long. I mean, what else is there?
And yeah, what else is there to life? Like, you just fucking run around, you dicks out, you just swing it all over the place, and it's just, that's how life is.
That's how life is. Every day of my life is just me running around with my dick out, swinging it everywhere.
Listening to track number 10.
Swing it. Man, this one has a cool echo effect on the guitar that really stood out, and I really enjoy it. I also really like the vocal harmony and the vocal melodies and stuff that happen in this track.
Yeah, like, this is where it started. I mean, I liked his voice throughout the whole thing, but I feel like his voice gets cooler towards the end tracks. Like, it's just got this cool waily, ghosty vocal thing behind it, and man, it's just a bop. Like, honestly,
Hashtag bopping.
hell yeah! Like, just the way he's
Hashtag feed bop loop.
oh my god, is it too late to change our name? 80 episodes in, is it too late?
Feed bop loop. I feel like that doesn't have the same ring as feedback loop.
Feed bop boop though.
There you go. Feed bop boop. Beat bop boop. That's all it is now.
Is this what we've become?
This is what we've become. I mean, we got time. This is a short episode relative to the last couple weeks, so even if we go long by derailing, we're still within normal.
Yeah, we're still not going for an hour and a half of me just railing against the government like an angsty teenager.
Indeed, but yeah, it's Swing It. It's great sounding. I like it lyrically. This was interesting. I felt like this was kind of a turning point in the protagonists, like the male characters kind of arc in this, where to me it kind of took me a few listens to understand what I eventually came to the conclusion of, which is that the guy goes to a bar already with a girl. He has a girl with him. They go to a bar to hang out or whatever. And then I think what's happening is he's seeing another girl at the bar, and he's having that kind of one night stand urge that he wants to like get it on with this other girl, but he's also kind of conflicted because he came with another girl. So I feel like this is some sort of like character development where there's another girl at the bar that's flirting with him that wants to like get it on with him and maybe have a threesome. I don't really know what's happening there, but he's still like, no, I can't. I really shouldn't. I think he says I could, or I don't remember the lyrics specifically, but there was something implying that he was kind of against it. But there's also a lot of lyrics that talk about them going home and getting it on anyway. So I'm not really sure if that was more of a fantasy of saying like, yeah, I could do this, and this is what could happen if I go with this new strange girl for one night. But I'm kind of also feeling tied to the person that I came with.
Yeah, I kind of like, I didn't necessarily get like the tied to a girl part, but it's probably because I just missed the lyrics.
Yeah, I feel like it was only mentioned like in the first line or two of the song.
I did, however, get the feeling that he was like abstaining from, like he had learned his lesson or something, or there was some sort of character development going on there.
Yeah, because in this one, like, I don't know, in a kind of role reversal way, maybe it was just him like seeing himself in like kind of a reflective way, where now there's this girl that's being overtly like into him and flirtatious. That's clearly only doing it for like a one night stand kind of a sex thing, and he realizes that that's what he's been doing, and I think that kind of leads in to the next track where he's experiencing maybe regrets for his sins. Maybe hell has caught up to him, and he's paying the price, and that price is kind of this sobering effect, and he's spending a lot of days alone on the weekdays. He goes out and parties on the weekends, but come Wednesday, he's totally alone. He's just having a lonely Wednesday by himself.
And then he also happened to make track number 11, Lonely Wednesday.
Hell yeah.
This song, like...
Sorry, the air horn button was right there. I slipped and fell on it.
It's fine. It's like that radio shows where they're just like, in
it's
the
fun.
Morning.
Yeah, get some horns and fart noises and what else?
What's that called? The zoo format? Is that what that is?
Sure. I don't know. I don't listen to the radio.
So this song being called Lonely Wednesday, it just made me think of that Gloomy Sunday song. Like every time I look at it, I just cannot think of anything but that.
It's a fun song.
Yeah, it's a real fun song. This song's a fun song. In the actual fun song way. I mean, it's not like the lyrics aren't necessarily fun or anything, but whenever it starts off, it reminds me of an Avenged Sevenfold song. Like,
interesting.
The way that he's singing and with how chuggy it is, and the drums, and then like the clackiness, which at this point I thought was the drums. So I was like, okay, he's got like an all around drum thing going on, which, not that anybody could drum like the Rev or anything, but I was just like, it's got some cool drum stuff going on here, and that's kind of where my mind went.
Interesting. I did not have any or any musical notes on this one at all.
Oh,
So.
well, okay, then let me continue with mine because I got a page of them.
Oh
Not
yeah,
really. I just
a whole page. This is where the next half an hour is going to be spent on this one
yeah.
song.
I mean, our new aim time to aim for is an hour and a half, right? That's what we've been doing.
Yeah, it's the new average.
Yeah. The only other thing I had to say was like it gets a Wild West vibe whenever there's like a more instrumental part about halfway through. It gets just a cool, yeah, like it feels like there's a tumbleweed blowing around and I'm a sheriff.
Because you're alone out in the desert with no one around you. You're having a lonely time on Wednesday. Lyrically, this is kind of I think the evolution of what I was getting at with Swing It, where he's realizing that he's tired of having these kind of one night stands with chicks and not being able to keep them around. And I think he's blaming himself for it because I think that's the kind of relationship that he's been seeking out, and that's the kind of girl he's been seeking out. And he's kind of realizing that like maybe that's not the best way to get a long-term thing going on, and that just leaves him lonely during the week when he doesn't have a girl that he's finding and picking up at a bar.
Yeah, that's essentially what I got lyrically as well. Like, I mean, maybe this album wasn't like it was meant to not have lyrics online just so that we could have an easy like a softball album where we just kind of like, okay, I can understand all the lyrics, so like I can actually try to parse meaning from it myself.
Instead of accidentally reading what somebody else thinks it means.
Accidentally.
Yeah, it was a huge air quotes there. Totally accidentally. Track number 12 is Electric Avenue.
Yeah,
by the way, not gonna segue. I feel like it's a bonus track.
I feel like it should be. I don't know if
yeah.
it,
Well, yeah, I will say that. I think it is included on the original like track list of the album, but like thematically, musically, I feel like this is more of a thrown in, just kind of like just a fun little extra song.
Yeah, because
it's a cover of Eddie Grant's Electric Avenue.
Yeah, and I mean it's cool. Like his voice is fine for the cover. I still like the original more, but like it's a decently original take on it. So it's not like they didn't just copy it. Like they still brought their kind of rock sound to it, where the original had more like electronic reggae vibes to it. I mean, vibes. It is like an electronic reggae-ish sound. But yeah, it's their take on Electric Avenue.
That is what it is, and I don't think we need to really discuss anything further about that. But I'm glad that it seems like you've enjoyed this album more than you anticipated, which that's a win for me. I think I enjoyed it in a different way than I anticipated because again, coming from Out in the Dark, I was expecting it to be kind of cheesy and kind of I expected a fun like Halloween album kind of a thing that's not necessarily telling a story or having any sort of theme other than there's a monster and this is about the monster that we're singing about on this track, kind of a thing. So I was kind of put down by that because I was expecting something that's kind of cheesy and fun, and I got something that's actually really polished and like a full final thing. So I do think this album is quote unquote better from a music standpoint and from a production standpoint, but I think their previous album Out in the Dark is a better fit for the season at the very least. It's kind of a fun, cheesy horror monster of the week kind of thing.
Well, then maybe that's what I'll be listening to whenever I'm trunk or treating this weekend.
Do it, blare it. I wouldn't do that if you're going trunk or treating because I feel like there are some expletives being put into some of their songs. But yeah, I'd recommend checking it out. It's a fun album for sure. It's good spooky sounds. I would also recommend this album if you're into I guess rockabilly, psychobilly, whatever. Check this out. If you think you might be into it, or if you think you aren't into it, check it out because clearly Joey thought he wasn't, and now he's a stan.
Yeah, I definitely the second I saw Psychobilly, whenever I was feverishly trying to find lyrics for this album, and I saw Psychobilly, I was just like, man,
this is gonna be a bad time.
but yeah, it worked out.
yeah, I'm excited that you liked it, and I'm excited to see what you've picked for next week. If it has any relations, I'm assuming it doesn't.
No,
That was kind of the intention of me picking this album, also because we just came off of 5 weeks of doing your folk punk stuff, so I wanted something just kind of just out there to reset momentum and expectations. So, what album are we listening to this week?
Okay, the album is called Technicolor Health, and it's by the band Harlem Shakes.
Harlem Shake. I feel like I've heard of that.
Oh my
Obviously,
god!
I've heard of the Harlem Shake, but I
Yeah,
feel like I've heard of the band Harlem Shakes as well.
well, if you've heard this album a whole lot or something, well, I'll make an edit and I'll just record a sound clip of me saying a different album name. We'll just listen to a different album.
Yeah, it's gonna be real jarring too. It's not gonna be like smoothly edited in.
It's gonna be like AC/DC Back in Black.
Because that's the album we would do. No, I've not listened to Harlem
Okay.
Shakes. I'm fairly confident in that, but I feel like I've heard the band name at the very least. So yeah, next week, Technicolor Health, Harlem Shakes. That's what we're doing. Let us know what you guys thought of Satana Tarantula or the Brains, or if you have any thoughts about Rockabilly, or if you guys want to suggest an album to us. Drop some comments, send us messages on all of the social feeds, as it were, and send your feedback.